Hi, welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, how is the state going to spend its infrastructure money? We'll deal with that in the second part of the show, but first, we have the newly elected state treasurer on the program. We're going to talk about a very exciting program that is going on between the treasurer's office and the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. That and more following these words.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Hi, welcome back to the program. Well, before I begin, let me say I want to thank all our viewers around the state, particularly the viewers WGAL, South Central Pennsylvania. We're #1 in our time spot, 11 o'clock on Sundays following Meet the Press. Thanks, as always, for watching. Joining me for the first time, sitting right across from me, is Rob McCord. He's the newly elected state treasurer. Newly elected, that was back in November.
Yeah.
Took office in January. He joins me, and often on the program is Jim McCormack. He's the president of the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Rob, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. Treasurer McCord, I got to call you. Well, look, I want to get
I'm a long-time fan, so
well,
thanks. Yeah.
Congratulations. First of all, I want to talk a little bit, I want to start with you and talk a little bit about this Credit Union Better Choice program. I want you to talk about the state treasury's interest in it. But you got to tell me, James, what's the program about?
Oh, it's the credit union's answer to predatory lending.
Yeah.
And we're able to grant loans to people that do have a job, but instead of going to a payday lender at 400+%, they can come to a credit union at 18%. There's a savings component for it, and says save the consumers in Pennsylvania almost $7 million in the last 2 years.
Yeah, Rob, we've talked a lot about predatory lending on this program. These folks have come in, and we've talked about steps to take to, just avoid getting caught up in that horrible predatory lending.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a wonderful, wonderful program. There's a brilliant professor, you've probably met her, Elizabeth Warren, who's an expert on bankruptcy and talks about the debt trap. And this is basically about payday loans. And just to give you a real sense of this, these are hardworking people as a rule who are playing by the rules, who are obeying the law, have a job, have a paycheck. They're often military servicemen. Sometimes they're welfare-to-work women who've made the leap into work, and they have excessive bills. And there have been these usurious products out there where people get seduced in with what they think are reasonable interest rates, but what they don't read is a fine print about the administrative fees. So they end up paying $25 off, and for every $100 they borrow every 2 weeks, and they're not allowed to pay it back a little bit at a time. This wonderful program.
And the interest rate?
The interest rate, it's the imputed interest rate when you include the administrative fees. On the average loan is more than 400%. And so what happens is working with Treasury, the Credit Union Association with Jim's leadership did a magnificent job here. Keith Welks, our deputy treasurer, I'm proud to have him as a colleague, worked his tail off on this. They invented a program where Treasury can take totally secure money, and by moving $20 million, absolutely guaranteed to get a market rate of return into credit unions. The credit unions, because they're nonprofit, are able to put those loans out there to people who have jobs and help them save money, frequently hundreds of dollars of fees on a $500 loan. And they frequently, part of the program is they must get financial counseling, and they must turn around and save 10% of what they borrow. So it's a wonderful program.
Yeah, that's another aspect of this. I mean, first of all, there's targeting of these folks. I mean, specifically, consumer ads and programs. How do you combat all of that?
Well, yeah, the credit union, of course, knows their marketplace, and many of the 80 credit unions who are participating are community.
How many participating?
80 credit unions throughout the state, over 200 branches. But they target their field of membership, and it's not only within the community. For example, up in Erie, we have a credit union that has targeted a shelter for battered women. The battered women come in there for loans, usually for their first apartment. And they have specialized in that. Out in Pittsburgh, first loan that the Pittsburgh Credit Union made was to a police officer to buy a bulletproof vest. So as the treasurer said, these are working people that need help.
So these are real live stories. This isn't theory here. This is real people who find themselves, in many cases, through no fault of their own. And boy, Rob, I'll tell you right now, in the polls that we've just done, I mean, we find increasingly large numbers of Pennsylvanians, you know, without job, having concerns about health care. The tendency would even be greater right now to fall prey to predatory lending.
You're 100% right. I mean, you know, in the McCord Treasury, one of the things we're trying to work on is not just increasing professionalism and efficiency in money management as good stewards, but helping to protect people's economic security and financial security, particularly women, who are 3 times more likely to drop into poverty after the age of 60
Many of them
for
single
the first
women,
time.
I'm sure.
Exactly right. And so reaching out, the credit unions are very well positioned to do this because they have a trailing history of who's been paying through the check clearinghouse system, who's been paying these payday loan folks. So we're able to do very good work for people who deserve it, and we do it at no cost to the taxpayers. So it's a wonderful program. More than 14,000 people helped.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Predatory lending, that's our subject matter. We'll be back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by PAConstructionJobs.com. For more information about rewarding careers in the highway construction industry, visit PAConstructionJobs.com. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Hi, welcome back to the program with Rob McCord, the newly elected state treasurer, and Jim McCormack. He's president of the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. We're talking about predatory lending, payday loans. This is something, particularly as in these tough times, that more and more people might be resorting to. Don't do it. These guys are here to tell us why you shouldn't do it. Jim, let me go to you about this program and its general acceptance, you know, in other quarters of our country.
Yes, this program, which was started in October of 2006 on Credit Union Day, I might add, has been held up as a model throughout the country. The FDIC, Sheila Bair, the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia has written articles about it, and they featured this at their unbanked conference. So this has gotten a lot of exposure, and we're thrilled that Treasurer McCord is going to be carrying on this tradition and even making it better. We really appreciate it.
This, as you know, your predecessor was on the program, and we chatted about it with Treasurer Weissman when, you know, appointed after Governor Rendell, you know, after he appointed her to be treasurer after Senator Casey took office. So this is an ongoing program, and you're so you've taken it up, your department supporting it.
Exactly. I mean, as Senator, I'm proud that Senator Casey helped conceive of it with Keith Welks, Deputy Treasurer, whom we retained. We look to expand it. One of the themes of my campaign and now of governing in a McCord Treasury is that we want to help people who are playing by the rules. No bailouts here, no spending of public taxpayers' money. What's beautiful about this is we're using the power of money to protect people who need protecting. We're talking about military servicemen, police, working women in a lot of these cases.
Let's talk about this. More broadly speaking, how does this fit into the general economic policy that governments ought to be pursuing?
Right. Well, look, I believe I'm the first sort of career business person elected as state treasurer, and I think many of us are leery of any kind of bailouts. Many of us are leery of over-regulation, of any kind of big brother syndrome. Let's be honest. And, you know, people who get to know Rob McCord are going to say that, you know, Rob has an appropriate skepticism. At the same time we need regulation, we also need to be skeptical of government intervention. What's beautiful about this is that it is not a regulatory, rule-driven solution. It's a market-oriented solution where we go out affirmatively to people who've chosen bad financial instruments. They've chosen payday loans. Payday loans are a bad idea. And they go instead to credit unions, either join a credit union or if you're already a member of a credit union, and they're able to get a $500 loan. Usually, in terms of administrative fees, on average, they'll save $400 in administrative fees in what are usually sort of 14-week loans. And they also get to start turning their life around in terms of starting savings accounts. But it's all at their option. It's simply they're provided better information and a better financial tool. We're able to deploy this money and save thousands of people money.
And I noticed, Jim, you've got here 14,700 loans totaling $6.7 million at 72 credit union.
Yeah, they have been made, yes, Terry.
And this is growing a lot by leaps and bounds. I mean,
it's growing, to tell you the truth, exponentially, because many of these credit unions have just been at it in the last 6 to 10 months, and their programs are rolling right now.
Yeah. Do you, in terms of where it goes from here, given the hard times that we face, is the program in for much expansion, or are you still using, the 20 million?
No, we're still growing the number of credit unions, but the ultimate goal of this program, Terry, is to get consumers and these people into the financial mainstream. There's a savings component to it. There's a financial literacy component. Everybody has to undergo financial counseling. But our ultimate goal is really to get these people into the financial mainstream and establish relationships.
All right, we have 1 minute left. What's the top priority of your I'm going to switch gears on you. You're used to this. What's the top priority for Treasurer McCord?
To help people rebuild economic security over in any way we possibly can. In this case, we're peeling people away from wealth stripping to wealth creating. We'll be doing that again and again. Watch for us to do more with women and money.
You're the first business guy. I mean, typically, and nothing against politicians. I love them. It's what I do for a living, But you're the first real business. I don't think has there been a businessman in that office?
No.
All right, thanks for coming on, and you're always welcome. You're all right. The infrastructure. How's Pennsylvania's money? A huge chunk of money coming to the state for infrastructure. Ask Governor Rendell. He's already spending it. We're going to find out how that money should be spent after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, check out ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the State System of Higher Education. 14 state-owned universities. The state system is the largest provider of higher education in Pennsylvania. And by the Hospital and Health System Association of Pennsylvania, working towards a healthy Pennsylvania.
Hi, welcome back to the program. Well, $1 billion is coming Pennsylvania's way for its infrastructure. I want to talk about that. Bob Latham's here. He's the Executive Vice President of the Associated Pennsylvania Constructors. All right, Bob, look, first of all, I'm going to say something the host shouldn't say.
Okay.
I think, and I'm not an advocate for this, but I think we need a comprehensive evaluation. We've done that a bit. And spending to make sure that this state has a modern infrastructure. Can't have a solid modern economy without a modern road and transportations. Am I right or wrong about that?
First of all, are you available for hire on a speaking tour?
No, but I mean,
seriously, yes, you're absolutely right. And the point is, over the last several years, last 10 years, whatever period of time, unfortunately, nationally and at the state level, we've addressed this issue in a piecemeal process. What we need to do is get away from that. We need our policymakers need to answer the question. We need to ask them the question, and they need to answer the question. What do we want our transportation infrastructure to be in 10 years, and how do we intend to get there? How do you intend to pay for it? And I believe we're going to have to look the public in the eye and say it's going to cost money to get to where we want to be. In the 50s, Eisenhower...
I was just going to go to the interstate highway system, but go ahead.
Well, the President Eisenhower and some forward-thinking people in Congress in the 50s came up with the interstate highway system. They paid for that with a 5-cent increase in the federal gas tax when gas was 20 cents a gallon and new cars were $500. I mean, so that was a large levy, but look at the impact that has had over the years on people's lives.
Well, let me put it another way. You want to put a business somewhere. You got to get goods and services around on a highway system. Now, even I can figure this out, right? Where do you want to put it? Are you going to put it someplace where you can move traffic back and forth, where you have good and you can get in and out of a state? Because we're not just talking about transporting goods within the state. Where we sit, New England, the Midwest, the South, Pennsylvania is critical in that in another way, just for its geographic location.
Look, Terry, you're a professor and you know history. Where in the course of human history did people locate their cities, their businesses?
Yep.
Where the most modern transportation system was? On the coasts, near rivers, and then when railroads were built, and then the highway system. Now we have a railroad and a highway and a port system, and all that has to work together, and it all has to be funded, as well as public transit in the inner cities.
Well, let's talk about the funding. Now, the state is expected to get $1 billion out of its the stimulus package that will come for infrastructure development. First of all, what is the $1 billion for? Has that all been made clear? I mean, exactly what is the $1 billion for?
Well, we're actually getting more on infrastructure than $1 billion. There is the $1 billion is really the highway and bridge portion of it. There's another $300 million for mass transit. There's money for the power grid. There's money for water, sewer projects, and so forth. But I'll focus on the highway and bridge portion of it. About 70% of that has to be spent according to the stimulus bill, or the Recovery Act now is what we're calling it, within 120 days, and then the other third within a year. I do know, in talking with the administration, that the governor has set a goal of getting all that money advertised for construction within 180 days. He has put it on a very aggressive program. And it's wisely so, because the Department of Transportation in this state has been a leader nationally in getting prepared for the stimulus package.
So in other words, to put it another way, one of the concerns, because it's supposed to help quickly and readily improve the economy, is to have projects that, to use that expression I never heard before, shovel ready. Yeah, you got that. So you're telling me that you think our state's prepared to move expeditiously on this?
Absolutely. I know for a fact that they have 20 or 30 projects that are already advertised for bid. Now that's a several-week process, but you got to get the thing moving to begin with. And the other thing is there's this what they call use it or lose it provision within the federal bill. And so Pennsylvania is acting very aggressively to take advantage of any states that fall down on the job. So we'll be in position to get other states' funds should they become available at the back end of this program.
All right, we're talking with Bob Latham. We're dealing with a very important subject. The host says we got to have a modern infrastructure. I'll let Bob explain how it should be paid for, but that's the way it is. We'll be back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by Highmark Blue Shield, changing the way health plans work for business, with a variety of plan options for employers and more choices for employees. Information is available at highmark.com. Have a greater hand in your company's health. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the future of long-term care. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by Penn Future, where we believe that every environmental victory grows the economy, and by the Pennsylvania Cyber Charter School, bringing educational innovation and freedom to the children of Pennsylvania.
Hi, welcome back to the program. Bob Latham is here. We're talking about the stimulus package, $1 billion, and as Bob points out, more than that going into Pennsylvania's infrastructure and some other areas of the economy. All right, Bob, look, when these roads and bridges and water and sewer upgrades get done, this is also important to the economy because of the people who will get hired and the resources, Pennsylvania resources that will be used. So it's kind of a twofer.
Absolutely. We like to say you can't export these jobs. They have to be done here in Pennsylvania. We hire locally across the state. And your typical highway worker is not a guy that's timing his market investments. He spends his paycheck locally. In the central part of the state, they're spending it, at the grocery store, at Walmart, at the gun shops, and so on and so forth. They're avid hunters and fishermen.
And these are private sector. Talk about that. Private sector contractors.
Well, of course. All the work that's done by PennDOT on the roads is done by private construction companies. Those companies hire the workers. We estimate anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 will be hired as a result of the stimulus package on those jobs in particular. And those companies also reinvest in the local economy. I mean, they have to do capital investments. One of the things that we were hearing last year was that because of the downturn in the market, companies that typically were investing $20 million a year in capital equipment and that sort of thing, we're cutting that in half. That has an impact on the local economy.
So in this recession, now not arguably, we're in a recession, doesn't look like it's going to end soon. The whole point about reversing the recessionary tendencies is to have people work so they can spend money. We're not going to come out of it without spending money. And so your argument would be, number one, economic. In the long term, we need this for a healthy state economy, no good infrastructure, no new jobs, and then additionally, it's people are going to be hired immediately as companies expand to do this work.
One of the things that we need to point out is that in addition to the public works market, the private construction companies do, obviously, commercial building and other residential. Well, that has fallen off tremendously, as everybody knows.
Absolutely.
I don't have to enlighten anybody on that. But the appetite for additional work is quite large. So you have not only that, the state will get very good prices this year because people are hungry and we have the low bid system, so companies will be bidding work as they go forward.
All right, before you go, I wanted to go to another aspect of this. We talked on this program with you and other people for the last 2 years about lease the turnpike. That didn't work, you know, to provide money, put money back into the roads and bridges. Then we were going to toll Route 80. Feds sort of rejected that. Now, there's some question about whether that rejection's final, but the income from those or the revenues from those, not there. So the stimulus...
The important thing to note is that the stimulus is a one-time, one-year deal. And on the back end of that, coming very soon, if the legislature and the administration don't act on filling that hole that's left by the turn down by the feds on I-80, we will see an immediate fall off of this program next year. So you're going to have this spike and then fall off. You will not get the capital investment that I talked about by the companies. They'll not see the market to do that. And we'll hire people for 6 months and lay them right off again. So it's very important to look at either revisiting the tolls, looking at maybe the fuel tax or something like that.
We're out of time. That's a great point. That has not been mentioned before. One-time shot. The state is still going to need additional revenues to keep our. Yeah, I have to be neutral, but it seems to me, you know, modern highway system roads, we got to have that.
We're going to have to act this spring.
Thanks. All right, as always, thanks for watching Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and stay well.